Hello and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Ludovic Veale, Head of Data Analytics at Charles Taylor InsureTech. Today we'll be joined by our customer, QIC Europe, to share with you how QEL implemented an Agile data preparation and reporting platform using Charles Taylor InsureTech, Trifacta and PowerBI. In today's session, I will be speaking along with Jurriaan, who leads strategy and planning at QIC Europe, and Mike Bellamy from Charles Taylor InsureTech, who's been working on this project with QEL. As head of the data analytics team at Charles Taylor InsureTech, the preparation of data is at the heart of all our project work. We work with insurance clients to deliver solutions that provide the added insight that they need to run their businesses successfully. That could be from a strategic look at the existing data estate through to embedding machine learning, predictive analytics that can drive efficiencies and increase profitability. We work with multiple technology vendors to build bespoke solutions that focus on delivering a tangible benefit and a return on investment at all times. In order to successfully build a solution, access and preparation of the organization's key data sets is vital and is often one of the most time-consuming aspects of these projects, and is something that we deal with on a day-to-day basis. The technologies adopted to manage these growing data sets has changed considerably over time. But what remains consistent throughout is the fact that the available data is continually growing, and the demands of the business to harness that data also continue to grow. As well as servicing our clients from across the insurance industry, we also manage a growing demand internally from the wider Charles Taylor Group, who want to harness the value of these growing data sets. As across many organizations, there is often a perception that the preparation and manipulation of data should sit within the technical IT department alone. But there needs to be an acknowledgement that these data sets are being used by the business outside of traditional governance and control of IT, mainly through the use of spreadsheets. Acknowledging the fact that the business users will want to take control of their own data sets in order to quickly answer their questions rather than always relying on IT is something that we actively encourage here at Charles Taylor, and it is through the use of tools such as Trifacta that we can achieve this in a governed and repeatable manner. These two speeds of data management are represented here by the supertanker, which is the IT side, and the speedboat, which is the business user. The supertanker is slower moving, but offers solid, governed, and high quality data sets, while the speedboat is able to be more agile and deliver results more quickly, but is not built on the same solid foundations. Accepting this two-tier world is referred to by Gartner as bimodal IT, which accepts the status quo whilst embracing new agile ways of working, and it's the model that we actively promote across Charles Taylor and our wider customer base. One of the drawbacks of the old get things done quickly route, which has been traditionally done by Excel, was that things were not built with the same rigor and standards to promote reusability. The one technology that has had the biggest influence in this area has been the cloud, and it is something that we are adopting more and more here at Charles Taylor, and was a big factor in why we chose to work with Trifacta, both within our own organization and with our insurance clients. The acceptance and improvement of business-led data preparation or data wrangling across the insurance industry is of paramount importance, especially when you look at organizations such as Lloyd's, which still have many manual analysis and reporting functions. Also, if you look at areas such as delegated authority, brokerage, or claims handling, all these processes generate huge amounts of data outputs for insurers, and they have traditionally been maintained using Excel files where data has been manually keyed in. All these processes need reliable and efficient data acquisition and consolidation, and enforcing some rigor has been a long-standing issue, and it's why we are seeing so much interest in the adoption of tools such as Trifacta. In addition to improving the overall reliability, Trifacta allows for improved consistency and quality of data because the recipes are self-documenting and fully governed. Without such tools in place, much of the know-how is stored in people's heads, so when they leave, so does the know-how. These are some of the reasons that led to our conversations with QEL as an extension of the services that we were already supplying around bordereau management through our case center workflow platform. I will now hand over to Jurriaan, who will talk you through about what we did together to embed Trifacta at QEL.
Thank you for the introduction, Ludovic, and thank you attendees for joining this webinar. As mentioned by Ludovic, my name is Jurriaan Vries, and one of the projects I'm leading as well as contributing to for QEL is the Trifacta project. Let me start with giving you a brief outline of what QEL is and does. QEL is part of the QRC group of companies. QRC is an insurance company from Qatar and has set itself the target to be in the top 50 of global insurers. QEL is part of this target and was set up late 2014, whereby the business model of QEL is to serve the European Delegated Underwriting Authority market. And this is where our main issue starts when it comes to data. We receive data in the form of bordereau from a variety of cover holders, from a variety of geographical locations, and from a variety of lines of business. In other words, none of the bordereau is the same. Market standards like the one of Lloyd's don't apply to them. Implementing a standard that suits us is a task to be picked up by us, which is a long and painstaking process. When I started with QEL, the processing of the bordereau was done by our insurance managers, and this was done manually, which is represented in slide 1. Their main task was to check the bordereau for contract violations. Obviously, it was impossible for them to check this line by line, and thus spot checking was done. This made some people, including myself, a bit anxious, getting in so much data and only checking so little. Auditors, both internal and external, regulators, compliance, and the business itself realized that going forward this had to change. This is how we got into touch with Charles Taylor InsureTech. We were looking for a tool that could check the bordereau in an automated fashion. An extra bonus to this would be the fact that we would actually start capturing data, because that was another very big downside of having this part outsourced to our insurance managers. Nothing was done with the data we received, which on itself caused issues when we had to comply to certain regulatory reports. Regulatory part aside, the business was in desperate need of a reporting suite as well. So the MGA tool was purchased from Charles Taylor InsureTech. The bordereau checking done by the insurance managers was stopped, and we started to capture the data. And that's where we identified another gap. Although there were some basic data manipulation, cleansing, and deriving options within the MGA tool, it wasn't sufficient to fulfill the requirements for the reporting part of it. It's very simple. We can have everything in order from our side. We're still dealing with third parties that deliver the data to us. And this is where Trifacta comes in. After speaking with Ludovic about Trifacta, I was convinced that if Trifacta only does half of what it states to do, it would already be a huge step forward. Not only have we found the solution for the future, we also applied Trifacta on our historical data and now have a database with cleansed and derived data, which can be seen in slide 2. This puts us in the position that we can now report much better and easier, saving us a huge amount of time. Additional features that we also supply the self-service reporting suite to the business, whereby we are far more confident that the data is correct. Going back to Ludovic's comparison, operation is needed at the tanker or the speedboat. Although the business is fast, like the speedboats, it doesn't always know what direction it wants to go in. An often heard request is, I need reports, without a specification of what this particular report should look like, which means going back and forth to finally end up at the end result. Having the self-service reporting suite available means it's the business that can play around with the reports. One of the major benefits I personally see in Trifacta is that someone without a huge amount of technical knowledge, like myself, is able to do the work. As rightly pointed out by Ludovic, the speed of the business is often faster than the speed of the development. Not in the last place, because the developer doesn't always know the data. Giving us the opportunity to adjust recipes, add recipes, and be in control means that we can deliver much faster. All by all, I believe we now have the capability to meet the requirements of the business users when it comes to reporting, and probably can deliver more than they thought was possible. I would like to give the word now to Mike, who has helped us to implement this project and deal with the huge variety of bordereau that we are dealing with.
Okay, thank you, Jurriaan, and thank you, Ludovic. So what we're going to look at in this brief demo is the ease and speed of setting up a flow in Trifacta and adding recipes to that flow. And we're also going to look at how Trifacta itself can be used as a bridge between a business-focused user, i.e. an underwriter or an analyst or even some management staff to a more technical individual. We're going to be using data that simulates a typical bordereau data set, and we'll be building some recipes typical of the recipes that we were using in the actual Trifacta QEL engagement. Okay, so what we're looking at here is the flow screen. And in here, you can see where the flows are going to be listed and built. As you can see in the list at the bottom here, Trifacta itself is listed, is broken into three parts. We have flows, library, and jobs. Okay, so if we just go into the library. So when this loads, what you're going to see is a page that lists all your data sets that are uploaded into Trifacta. Okay, so these data sets can be bordereau data sets or reference data sets, any kind of data set that you want to use in your flow. From there, you can also use import data as well. If we go into the jobs section, this is like an audit page. So the jobs section is going to show you the executed outputs of some of your flows. So as you can see here, we have a status, the flow that it's come from, the job number, and it's really good for auditing purposes. So it can tell what's been executed and when. So if we jump back now to the flows tab, and what we're going to do is quickly create a flow. So a flow is going to be the meat in between the sandwich. Okay, so this is your basic landing page when you start a flow, and we're just going to quickly add a data set from our library. We're just going to select the top file, click add. Okay, so once that loads, you can see our source data there, and that's the first step in our flow. On the right-hand side, you'll see some details supporting that data, but we're just going to quickly add a new recipe. Okay, so we're just going to call this recipe cleanse. Okay, so they have a blank recipe, and we just need to edit that recipe. So click edit. And this is where Trifacta gets really clever. Okay, so you can see we have this matrix style analysis of our data, and Trifacta has tried to analyze each column and decide a few things for us. So it's assumed the data type based on the data, and the green bar charts you can see below the column are the distribution of the data. So green means it's valid against that data type, black means it's missing, and as you'll see, there's a few red columns as well. That means it's invalid, and this is where we need to do a little bit of data quality, data cleansing. So we're just going to focus on these three columns: brokerage, brokerage percent, and gross premium. So if we look at gross premium first, we can see it's got a string data type, which is obviously not correct for a gross premium figure. So if we just look at and visually analyze the data, we can see a few quotation marks that look like they shouldn't be there. So let's flip over to decimal, change the data type, and you can see that the profile of the data has changed. We now have some mismatch values, and Trifacta has assessed that the quotation mark is causing problems, and we need to fix that. Okay, so in order to fix that, we click out the suggestions. All we can simply do is highlight the quote, and Trifacta will list a whole bunch of suggestions on how to action that quote. We just want to strip it out, so the top result is to replace it with nothing. So we're going to do that. Click add, and that just simply adds a step, and all the quotations have gone from that column. Again, we're going to go back to decimal. We still have issues, so there's something else. Again, it's the same columns, and it looks like it's having problems with comma. So again, we're going to repeat the same method. We're just going to highlight the comma. And again, Trifacta will list a bunch of actions. And again, we're just going to strip it out. So we just select the correct one and add. Okay, so now you see gross premium has a decimal data type, which is what we want, and there's no red in the bar chart, which means it's all valid, which is good. So we need to repeat these actions across the brokerage column. Okay, so the brokerage is set to integer. We don't want that, we want a decimal. And we still have a few mismatched values there. So let's scroll down and see if we can find. And it looks like it's the same corporates. We have quotations and commas. So again, well, I mean, at this point, you could actually add the brokerage column to your gross premium step. But we're just going to, for the sake of this demo, we're just going to add it again. Same actions. Again, we're going to highlight the comma and remove the comma. Just find a place and add. Okay, so what we have now is 3 columns that we're going to use, all decimal data types, all clean. So now we can add a basic business rule. So say a business rule is to derive the brokerage if we have a brokerage percent and a gross premium. So we can edit column with formula, and we're going to overwrite the brokerage column. If we just start typing brokerage, it will come up. Okay, so very similar to Excel, we go into our formula and we have a little help window which tells you all the correct syntax and how to type out the formulas. And we can do a little if statement. Again, very similar to Excel. Instead of cell references, we're going to be using column names. Okay, so if brokerage, we're going to say if brokerage is equal to 0 in this instance, we're not interested, keep the brokerage value as is. And we only want to apply a formula if we do have a brokerage value. Okay, so if brokerage equals 0, then just select brokerage. And another comma. Now, if we do have a brokerage value, we want to do a little formula. So we're going to multiply gross premium by brokerage percent. And that should give us our derived brokerage value. Just type in brokerage percent. And it comes up, a little helper bar at the bottom. So we see a before and after picture now on our left-hand side, the source and preview. That's your before and after value. So you can validate your formula. Trifacta has not seen any errors with the formula. And there we are. So we've overwritten the brokerage column now, and that's the final step in the list. So you can see in the space of a few minutes, we've cleaned some data and applied a basic business rule. And it's all logged in the flow. So before I quickly hand over, I'm just going to show you a working example from the actual engagement. And it's really just to show you how little engineering has actually gone into this, and how simple Trifacta has allowed us to create a flow and keep it quite simple. So in here, we've managed to put all the logic from this border out into three steps. We have a cleanse, which, as before, will handle any data quality issues when it loads up. Yep, you can see there. With the standardization rules, that's where we apply our business rules, which would be similar to the last step I just showed you on the demo. And we have a little currency lookup at the start. And really, what we've done there is treat a border row in 3 steps. And it really goes to show how quickly and easily a non-technical user could build something like this. Okay, so that's it for my brief little demo. I'm just going to hand back to Ludovic now.
Thank you for the demo, Mike. Hopefully that has given everyone a good idea of what has been achieved at QEL so far. Having personally worked with data preparation tools for many years, it is incredible to see how powerful something like Trifacta can be, but at the same time simple enough for a non-technical person to pick up. It really is closing the gap between the business knowledge and the technical manipulation of data. Traditionally, to offer a robust and governed solution like this would have needed 3 different parties: the business user, the technical developer, and a business analyst who acted as a bridge between the two. I appreciate that we've only scratched the surface of what can be achieved using Trifacta, but I wanted to share some other use cases that we've identified recently with our clients, such as calculating the additional costs when putting together a premium, such as broker fees, TPAs, and other external commissions and fees, validating and flagging claims and movement deterioration, building the logic for calculating loss ratios, and general metric building. Basically, it can work well with any repetitive task that is currently done in a spreadsheet. As we all know, insurance is a knowledge-intensive business where a lot of information is still locked in the heads of brokers, underwriters, and analysts. So using a tool such as Trifacta can really improve the overall sharing and distribution of the most important asset we have, which is data. I'm going to pause there and use the last few minutes to answer some questions which have been submitted. So first question here is, why can I not just use Power BI directly to manipulate the data? Yeah, that's a good question, and it certainly, and in fact, actually was the first engagement that Mike had working with Jurriaan at QEL when Jurriaan was struggling to put together some of his Power BI reports. So we did some DAX coding work there, but what soon became evident was a lot of the data preparation work is limited at what you can do in Power BI. Certainly you can do some good modeling and good coding there, but taking it to another level, such as using Trifacta, really did kind of improve what can be done. Next question here is, why can't I just do this in Excel? Well, that is true. You know, you can do all this in Excel. So this is really mimicking all the functionality of Excel, but the big fundamental difference here is Excel doesn't give you a fully governed, repeatable process. So what you get here is, you know, Excel is often an isolated tool that sits on people's desktops. People do work, which is often throwaway. It sits on a desktop or a laptop, and it's not necessarily easily shared. The difference with Trifacta is fundamentally everything that you're seeing and doing within the Trifacta application is saved in the cloud, and is, you know, it can be reused again. And it's pretty much that is the fundamental difference here. So you've got the same functionality, but you've got all the other governance, data quality features available, and it is a rapidly improving product as well. And just final question here is, I'm an ETL developer. Does Trifacta replace ETL developers? No, the answer is simply no. So ETL developers and ETL tools will continue to exist in parallel. So I think it pretty much goes back to the analogy of the supertanker versus the speedboat. I think the IT central governed team will always have ETL tools that are tailored specifically for the IT technical users, but something like Trifacta is filling the space specifically for the business user. So I see these things as working in parallel for some time to come. And you know, remember that Trifacta is all about reducing the complexity so that your average business user can use it, whereas an ETL tool is designed for an IT function to operate, and then may well have a lot more kind of coding sides and things that integrate more in the IT landscape. Okay, so we're going to wrap up there. Thank you very much.